Morning, or evening, grace, brother, and citrus have everybody back along with us here with our Temperance Awakening and our 18th alcohol lecture. Now going to be looking at peer pressure and alcohol. So much of what we have here today is really targeted toward young people, like teenagers, to the college age crowd. And so, excuse me, what is peer pressure? Peer pressure is the experience a person has of feeling forced or compelled to act the same as the social group to which he or she belongs. And, let's just face it, everybody, likes to belong. Like, we often associate this peer pressure, to young people, but, that goes for anybody, of any age group. Because, human beings are social beings. Even the most introverted of people like me, a person like on the Myers-Briggs, personality test that some of you are familiar with, I scored a 99% introvert. I'm extremely introverted. But even very introverted people, they want to be a part of a social group. They don't want to always be alone. People, they get together for comfort, safety, because, they enjoy one another's company. Nobody wants to feel left out or excluded, from their family, their class, a team, or co-workers. And, as social beings, teenagers, though, probably are, the most human of all of these age groups. They love to hang out with their friends, to share good times, to help one another over the rough spots, to compare notes about all the new things they're finding out about life. And there are many skills, that a teenager wants to learn that are more important than finding and keeping good friends. They feel like friends deserve your loyalty, and, they owe you loyalty in return. But people, though, aren't just social beings. We're individuals as well. We all have our own set of beliefs, our own values, our own personality, our own philosophy of life. And an important skill that people need to learn as teens is finding the right balance, between belonging to a group and making one's own decisions as an individual. And, we do mostly apply that to teenagers, but that certainly goes for anybody. And people must learn to be their own person, within their family and also among their own, friends, classmates, and co-workers. Now, kind of just speaking particularly, though, to teenagers, when you were a kid, you probably thought your parents knew everything there was to know. Then after you spent a few years in school, you realized that they didn't always have all the answers, however much they loved you and how much, you respected them. The world has changed, really quite a bit, over the last, like 20, 30, 40 years. And in some areas, school teachers, can have a tendency to know more about social things than parents. And now that a person's reached their teenage years, their life is a lot more complicated. Parents still have their opinions, teachers have their own points of views, and you usually have a new set of teachers every year. You watch, you watch television, listen to the radio, see movies, you read books, newspapers, magazines, articles, and in addition to all of these other sources of information, you've got your friends who are part of your peer group and people your own age in your community. And of course, that doesn't just go for people in public school, but also private school and, even homeschool people, like, whereas now, at the present time of this, like homeschooling is at an all-time high. But even, like parents who homeschool their kids to keep them from, like trying alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs and things, still a challenge. And your peers are the unchallenged experts in a lot of subjects. They usually can tell you the best, like the best movies to watch, the best thing on television, the best clothes to wear. And, they might have a good idea about who the best teachers are in the school or, part of a homeschool co-op or what part-time jobs are available in the neighborhood. They can even help you navigate through dating and romance and keep you from making embarrassing decisions. Very often, though, peers will influence you by their words or by their example, and even on subjects where they may not have so much knowledge, like with alcohol, tobacco, or other illegal drugs. And there's no reason to ignore their opinions, whether, that's on the risk of alcohol or whatever else, but they probably don't have the whole picture. Some friends may in fact know some pieces of the puzzle better than your parents or teachers. They might be more familiar with the names and types of, the latest designer or the latest movies or whatever, and, where to get them. peers may know where underage kids can get alcoholic beverages, and you know where they can drink with a less chance of getting caught. And if your, parents aren't drinkers, you might have friends that are more knowledgeable about the different types and brands of alcoholic beverages. But just as your parents don't know everything, your friends can be wrong too. Especially when it comes to, the long-term consequences or even short-term consequences, of things like alcohol, tobacco, and drugs. And teens' knowledge about substance abuse is only short-term. It could take several years, for alcohol to cause physical harm, and therefore cannot be something that teenagers know from their own personal experience, nor do they always understand the damage, that it can do to family and work life. And even if you assume for argument's sake that your friends know what's best for them, they may not know what's best for you. You're a unique person, as we said, you have your own needs, values, goals, philosophy of life, you have your own body, which can certainly react differently also, to alcohol. You might have a family history of alcohol abuse, that could be why, you're watching, this lecture now to get help, or, you might have a family tradition of, abstention, of no alcohol. But in either case, you have good reason, though, to abstain. Doing well on tomorrow's exam or test could be a higher priority for you than for some of your friends. And maybe even, some of your friends are so intelligent or they can handle hangovers so well that they can still do well on a test. Might not be the case for you, though. And now looking at manipulation by peers. Like when friends talk, they should honestly say what's on their minds. We don't endorse deceiving anybody, but sometimes, however, even friends can have hidden agendas. In other words, they might try to manipulate you, make you do something that you really don't want to do, something that you know is wrong. But they can try to get you to do that by telling you lies are only part of the truth. And often kids who do drink or use tobacco or other drugs, they can have several different reasons for manipulating you into joining them. They might feel that they have protection in numbers, because you wouldn't tell on them if you're involved. They might feel unsure that what they're doing is really safe, smart, or all that much fun. If they can convince you to join them, it might relieve their own doubts. And, misery loves company. Kids who are starting to feel the negative, harmful effects of alcohol abuse may not want to face them alone, and getting you into the same mess isn't the best way to deal with their problem, but it might seem like a good idea to them. And anybody, though, who tries to manipulate you, into doing something against your better judgment, usually tries to play on your fears and emotional needs. Now, like some of these first can be the fear of losing friends. You could be afraid of losing the friend who's manipulating you or other friends if you don't go along with their behavior. Then, of course, the need to be popular, to be a part of the crowd. You may not really want to drink, but you might be willing to if you think that's the price that you have to pay to join a social club. But according, though, to Minnesota prevention specialist Chris Van Hoof, he says the easiest group to belong to is the users. They accept pretty much anybody as long as you drink or use, you're in. Is that the group that you really want to belong to? Then, of course, there's the fear, of looking like a geek or a nerd. You might want to turn down alcohol, because, you know what's wrong. But if you don't drink, then, people think you're a geek or a nerd. So, don't wind up doing something stupid just to avoid looking stupid, because it certainly isn't. It's the other way around. If you're going to start, drinking, that's the stupid thing. Then the fear of being different. You think everybody does it. You might not have the strength to abstain. Then there's the need to be polite. Nobody likes to hurt or insult their friends by turning down, an offer to do something social, which can include having a drink of alcohol. And then, also, most people, don't want to seem like a holier-than-thou, even very religious people. And then there's the need for love and attention from the opposite sex. Like a friend might tell you that drinking makes you less shy. It improves your sexual performance or makes you more attractive. And even if you think that sounds off base, you might want to believe it enough to try it. If your friend really wants to manipulate you, he or she may offer you a drink in front of somebody he or she knows you like. And, that's very tough to resist if the other person is drinking too. And it's hard to resist when you happen to be feeling low, depressed, or anxious. You may be especially open to manipulation at those such times. But now I'm going to look, though, at resisting that peer pressure. Once again, it's hard to say no to somebody that you like, but you might as well learn that skill while you're young. What words should you use? Whatever feels comfortable for you, of course. Here, we're going to give you some tips, though. Here's some lines that other people have came up with. These are actually lines that were invented by teenagers. And they won't work, every time, but they can inspire you, maybe to invent some lines of your own. And think it over. But certainly think it over. That's really the best thing to do. Think it over before you get into that situation. I would highly advise you to not hang around, with people that are going to be drinking or doing things like that are wrong. But, sometimes, that can just happen anyway. If, you're just out in the community doing something, out in the neighborhood, walking around or whatever, it can happen. So here's what I could say. If, somebody offers you alcohol, a drink, first, maybe you don't turn that person down, just turn down the alcohol. You might say, something like, I'd like to hang out with you, but I don't want to drink. Then you could offer to do something else when they offer alcohol. Say, like, let's go eat, let's go to let's go play some ball, let's go do something else. And if your friends say, no, I don't want to go with you to play ball or go eat or whatever, then say, well, you can, catch up with me later. You can join me later. Give a good excuse. Say, I can't. I have to study tonight. I'm taking prescription drugs and I can't drink. Or, I'm in some type of physical training. Chances are, if you're a teenager, one of these, at least one of these is going to be true, especially, studying. You can always use that. Maybe you can just say it's cool. I don't feel like it. I don't like the taste of alcohol. You can make the point without, putting the person down. Turn it into a joke if they offer you. Say, sure, let's drink. Then when I total my car, maybe my dad will buy me a new one if I'm still alive. That'd be a really good one. And, just take time out if, you're kind of around the neighborhood or around a large group of people who are drinking. Go to the bathroom or, kind of walk away from them. Step outside, away from them. If things are really getting out of hand somewhere, like if you do put yourself in a bad situation, like if you're at some type of social gathering, like a party or something, and things are getting out of hand, then just leave. Just say, I have to get up early tomorrow, so, I just got to take off. And, of course, you can say what a lot of grown-ups say, just like when a waiter comes around and, like offers a refill, like on coffee, tea, or, a beverage or whatever. If they offer you a drink, just say, I'm good, thank you. And then just, shrug it off. And then, maybe at a later time, at the appropriate time, you can share, with your friends or, whoever in the neighborhood, in town, or, relatives or whatever, things that we've gone over here. Tell them about the vice that alcohol is and the families and all that, that it's ruined. So peer pressure, that's not easy to resist, no matter the situation. If, you're in a public school, a private school, or homeschooled, like I've said before, I've felt, unfortunately, I have felt peer pressure, even in church settings, when, what most people would consider, a very conservative, a very conservative church, setting, a church that was, like very much against alcohol, where most people were, like against tobacco and everything. So, peer pressure is, really hard to avoid, no matter your situation. And in the end, if you do resist, you're going to end up with more and better friends if you do what's right. And so, it's better to get the right kind of friends and people that are going to be doing things that they shouldn't. So thank you so much there for being with us today. As we said, a lot of what we had today was more for the young crowd. The next lecture, we'll be looking at recovery and treatment, so come on back and be with us, and we look forward to seeing you then. Until that every kind of shadows flee away, I am Dr. Coop, and I love you, and I appreciate you.